No, not at all. They used to call me Mr. Dumas. And I finally figured out what that meant. I'm like, what? What? No, but Bruce, you've done it all. You've been all over the world. You worked for multi-million-dollar companies, made them into multi-million-dollar companies. I'm impressed at the fact on page 32 in Edge, Chattanooga's business magazine, beautiful, beautiful write-up. You have to check that out. It's Chattanooga's business magazine, Edge, page 32 is Bruce Krebs. Franchises offer alternatives to mid-career workers. I got through about half of it because I read your email this morning, but very flattering. And it's important if you decide to make a sea change, a total change in your life, that you have not only a safety net, that you're doing it with reason, logic, and common sense, and you're relying on a mentor or someone there who knows what they're talking about.
Well, they say, Sab, even Oprah has a coach. And for you to go try to find the right business for yourself and try to do it on your own, you're just asking to make a mistake. And one thing when you're thinking about going into business for yourself, the biggest fear that you have is making a mistake. Right. Because it can be very, very expensive. So you really want to understand what are all your options out there? What are all the things that fit your criteria, let alone the economy, the demographics of where we live, the competition, and what's your reason to be against the competition, how you deliver your product and service, and what you're going to be doing in the business. And I make my clients think about a lot of things they have never thought about before. And when I introduce them to concepts, I've never had a client in 14 years that has ever knew about something or thought about something before I showed it to them.
But it's exciting too. I mean, it's exciting to have this creation. There's not one person who has owned a business who I've not spoken with, walked into, that weren't proud of what they do.
Absolutely.
It's an exciting venture to go from the concept of I want to be the flying locksmith to actually providing that service, seeing the rewards of your good works.
Absolutely.
By the return in money.
Absolutely. In fact, flying locksmith, my client, Stephen and Brandy Rigario, we have Rick's Lock and Key here. Great business. Right. They're good people. Right. 18, 19 trucks running around the city. Nothing at all wrong with their business, but they're primarily residential. So what Flying Locksmiths does is 90 to 95% of what their business is commercial. So what Steve is a good B2B sales guy. So he'll go into an elderly care facility. He'll go into a school. He'll go into a hospital, a bank, a mall, the building we're in here. And not just about the digital key systems and all the multi-key things that you do, but it's all about the security. What about the cameras? What about the security? What about all the different things you need to make sure that a school is or an elderly care facility or a bank is secure? So when you look at security issues, that becomes a whole new way to think about the locksmith business as an example. All right. And they've had a tremendous start, and they do regular locksmith things, particularly where you have digital keypads or multi-keys or, multi-users going into a facility. But how is your business secure? And that's what they help people do, is what are all your options to make sure that you're secure? And today, let's face it, we have issues everywhere with security.
Even though we have cameras.
Absolutely.
Everywhere.
Absolutely.
Just because you can't be watching all the time. And what happens is, after you're notified so many times, because I have cameras at the transmitter site here, you get lackadaisical. You're like, well, that's another false alarm.
Right.
And you may look at it 6 hours later. We're just creatures of habit. But why I like your franchise model is the world is so quickly changing. One cannot know unless they're researching it every day. Everything that's out there. When we move from an agrarian society to a bunch of producers, we had individuals that worked for someone really smart, and those individuals then became the entrepreneurs themselves. And I don't see that today. I don't see where you have interns now, where back then it would be someone working under a blacksmith or a locksmith or whomever. They gain enough knowledge then to go on their own. They're working for them their entire lives because of supposed benefits or supposed pensions, which, let's look at the airline industry. After 30, 35 years, I've had airline pilot friends of mine lose everything. Their pension is gone in bankruptcy court. So everything they worked for, everything they strive for, the hope of retirement, they're living in a single wide trailer broke.
Right, exactly.
Because it was taken away from them because, you know why, Bruce? They weren't in control of it. And that's the difference between being an employee and being an employer or a business owner. You're in control. You've been given the successful model. Don't reinvent the model. It's there. Don't reinvent the wheel. You can make it a little better from a suggestion, but you're taking advantage of other people's failures. They failed and failed and failed and failed, and they succeeded. And now they're so successful, they're giving that model to you.
Well, the biggest problem that people worry about when they get into business for themselves is not only how to deliver the product and service, and what about the competition, your reason to be against the competition, and how do I get my clients and customers, and a litany of things you think about. But if you really think about it, technology changed our world.
It's changing it every second of every day.
Exactly. So when you go back to the issue of being an apprentice for a blacksmith or a locksmith or a plumber or electrician, today technology has changed so much,
right?
Just like the flying locksmith business. It has changed so much that if you're going to go try to open that on your own, it's impossible. All right. Secondly, since so much of our world today is via Google search, Google AdWords, where you get on your phone and you Google something and up come 2 or 3 people as the number one suppliers with reviews and so forth, or there's Yelp, or there's pay per click and all the other thing. When you're in business for yourself, that is the primary driver of how you get your business today. Franchisors can spend millions of dollars making sure that their franchisees, when they open in Chattanooga or wherever the city they live in, are number 1 or number 2. And you just can't do that on your own. You can't figure out all the algorithms they have, and they change them every week to make it complicated.
Right.
But when, many franchisors can get 100% of your base business from Google search, Google AdWords, pay per click, Angie List, and so forth, where you don't even have to do anything other than answer the phone and go out and deliver the product and service. But if you try to do that on your own, you can't do it.
Where the entrepreneur source comes in is that you have a 96% success rate. You like service-oriented businesses, that you actually mentor these individuals to determine whether or not they should be in the particular business they're even thinking about, and throwing something at them based on their personality that could benefit them.
Absolutely.
I like the way you think, because in radio, we do almost the exact same things to our client, where the client may want something and we say, well, that may not be the best thing.
Right.
Just because you sell widgets doesn't mean you know how to market widgets. But where the entrepreneur source comes in, and you come in, Bruce, is not only being able to supply the widgets, the service, but to be able to market it, to be able to have a plan to make money with it, to sell it later on if you decide to retire, to use it as part of your retirement.
Right. And I mean, if you look at this article that was just done, which is a wonderful article, and I thank the Free Press and Edge magazine for doing it. In the case of Steve Gregario, he sold his insurance agency because the insurance business just got too tough, too competitive. And he said, basically, he came in and met with me. He took a personality test, and quote, he says, you really need to work with someone like Bruce, because it didn't cost me a dime, but he gave me a tremendous amount of good ideas of what was right for me in my future. And that's exactly what this situation is, Sab, is that you they say you have to learn more to earn more. And that's exactly what Steve and Brandy did, and all my clients that I help in the business do. They come in and they learn. So at least they have a plan B in their life if the right job doesn't come along, or they don't want to go back to corporate America for whatever reason. But if you're in corporate America today, you're a free agent. There's no more gold watches after 35 or 40 years. You're a free agent. You can, and basically the other 3 people in this article all got their gold watches. That's a joke. They didn't, from TVA after 18 years, or pharmaceutical industry after 12 years, or so forth. And there is no gold watches anymore, because you're vulnerable. You can be let go at any time for any reason, and get downsized. Particularly, each of these individuals in this article were over 55 years old.
You're a disposable number. And this is what cracks me up with the average person believing that business owes them something. And I never did. I'm sorry. I'm one of those, even as an employee, when I was one years ago, I never believed I was owed anything other than what I produced that day. And when I left at 5, I was fired and had to revisit that business the next day, the radio station, where my fellow AFTRA employees belonging to a union believed the business owned them something. The business, I just want to tell people this. You're owed nothing. Never forget this. You are paid for doing a job. And when you're done working that day, you're fired. You have to come back the next day and prove yourself again. So if you work for me for 8 hours, that doesn't mean squat to me other than you produced what you should have produced and you got paid for it. If you've been with me for 20 years and you don't produce on 20 year and day one, you're probably worth nothing and you're fired. Now, that may sound harsh, but guess what? That is the corporate world. And is that what you want to continue to work for? Or do you want to be the person to make those decisions, to make that money? Do you know why that is? Look at those car dealerships, Bruce. Hundreds of cars on those parking lots, lighting the lights, paying the employees. And people go, well, I want the car at cost. Well, how are they going to pay their bills? They've got taxes. They have to pay their employees. They've got commissions. They have a light bill, so on and so forth. It's floor planned. And you know what? You're part of that number that we see every week and every month as an employer. And if your number isn't meeting our standards, we cut your number and hire someone that works. Now, that may sound cruel, but they're the facts. So you need to get out of that. You need to get out of the world of just being a number, just being disposable. Because let me tell you, if you were working for me in sales and you weren't producing, I'll fire you. Well, I don't care if you're my brother. So, Bruce, I'm telling you right now, if you're listening and you work for someone, you may not have a job tomorrow. I'm not trying to scare you, but I'm saying look into something that's going to benefit you. I did this at a very early age. Owned my first station at 35 because I was tired of dealing with jerks. And every employer knows they work for a jerk. And if you're working for a jerk, stop working for him and call Bruce at the Entrepreneur Source.
Well, yesterday I had a client come in at 58 years old, had worked for this company for 20 years, and same thing, the regional sales manager.
Yeah.
Well, his boss was a jerk. More than that, above him, the corporate headquarters, all they did is cut territories, cut commissions and whatever. They came in, there was 18 district managers. They came in 3 months ago and let all 18 managers go.
There you go.
And just eliminated their positions and didn't care what they'd done. He was a top performer. They let them all go. And now he's saying, 58 years old, where am I going to get a job? It's been 3 months already. Yep. The phone's not ringing, and you're becoming disillusioned because he said, hey, my plan is I want to get into something 5 or 6, 7 years and make great money, enjoy what I'm doing, and then sell it for the equity build. But if you really think about this problem, being a free agent and not being appreciated and being underpaid,
working for the jerk.
But not only that, let's just think about it. People don't go rent houses. They buy them. Why don't you rent a house? 1, you want an equity build. 2, you don't like paying that rent every month and seeing it go down the toilet kind of thing.
Right.
But really what corporate America is really doing today is they're renting you. They're paying you by the hour, by the day, by the week. They are renting you, and they can basically evict you at any time.
Well, you and I went through the same thing. I built stations up, made them millions, and I got nothing. Right. And I said, I'm going to start owning them. And you went through the same thing.
Exactly.
But the difference is, I think you and I learned from the people we worked under. I wanted to know, why'd you play that song at that time? And you talked about research. And this is why you need to call the Entrepreneur Source, right? Give your number out, Bruce.
My number is 423-875-5621.
Okay. And don't think Bruce he's not paying for this hour. Bruce is an advertiser that we invited on because we believe in what you're talking about, because your model goes along with the radio station's model, which is getting out of being a corporate clone, taking control of your life, making decisions for yourself, but based on reason, logic, and common sense in a model that works, the franchise model, the service model, whereby you're not getting paid from the person that calls you.
No.
You're getting paid by them.
By the franchisor. You're
not doing anything but being basically a free mentor for several months. So that individual, I often tell businesses, if you're not on the radio, you're crazy. I don't care if it's my radio station. I don't care what radio station it is. But if you're not bragging about your business on the radio, you're nuts. There's something wrong with you because there's thousands of people listening. It's like being in an audience telling them why they need to come to your business. Are you ashamed of your business? You need to be on the radio. And it's the same thing with you, Bruce. If you're working for someone and you don't at least look into this to see what other choices you have in life that are not going to cost you anything, maybe you're a little cuckoo.
But, there's another thing that's really important. Maybe you don't want to quit your job. Maybe you want to ride it as long as you can. Maybe that's your comfort zone. Or maybe your wife or spouse doesn't want you to do something on your own for whatever reason. Then there's a whole different thing to think about. There's opportunities that you can do part-time, particularly if you're in sales. You can do it 10, 15 hours a week. Or if you want to keep your job and do something, you and your wife or even your kids 5 to 10 hours a week.
Right.
And you and I have talked about it. you can do that and make tremendous incremental income. While I'm not talking a couple $1,000s a week, I'm talking much more.
70, 80, 100,000 a year, if not more.
Exactly.
Just working part-time.
Just working 5 to 10 hours a week, and keep your job for as long as you can. But at least you're building incremental income. If you're making 60 or 70,000 a year, and you have the chance to make 70 or 80 or $100,000 a year in incremental income for 5 to 10 hours a week, that becomes your safety net. Where if you lose the job, you still have that income. But if you get that income, you can just put it in your 401k. You can put it in savings. You can do whatever you want to. So we know today there's 28 million Americans working part-time because they can't find full-time work, and another 6.5 million Americans working multiple part-time jobs.
And millions unemployed.
Correct. There's 16 million unemployed is the number.
That's
the real number. The real number.
Okay.
So the real issue is why work part-time for $9 or $10 an hour when in this concept that I can show you, it's $185 an hour.
Well, plus on your signature, you're getting up to $150,000 in cash.
Absolutely, from the Small Business Administration
with no collateral. What is your phone number, Bruce?
423-875-5621.
Okay, and your website?
My website is theesource.com/B as in Bruce Krebs, Krebs.
Right, and all you have to do really is just Google the Entrepreneur Source, and Bruce will come up, or Bruce Krebs. You Google that, and boom, you pop right up there.
Yep.
I've decided that, and by the way, I was being somewhat facetious and being the mean boss. I'm a pushover. I hate to fire people, but I'm giving an example of the mean people that are out there. Where, if you're not making bottom line and whatever. And when I said that, people are going, yeah, that's the guy I work with. And I'm not quite that harsh. But yet we do, as people who want to provide a service to others, have to look at individuals within our organization and determine, are you producing as much as you possibly can? Am I getting a good price? Has your production diminished? And trust me, if you work for someone, they're looking at that every day with you. They're checking you every day. And if they can pick up, I don't care if you work there 20 years. That's why a lot of people don't go on vacation. If you go on vacation and someone replaces you at half the price and does double the work, you'll probably come back without a job.
Well, I mean, that's a perfect case. What's happening to the over 50, 55 male and female executive today or middle manager today? Forget about taking a vacation. They look at they're paying them $75,000 or $100,000 a year, and their healthcare costs are going up, and they're contributing their IRA and whatever. And they can hire someone 35 years old for half that much with no health benefits, no 401k, whatever. A business owner is going to say, hey, I can just save $50,000 or $60,000 or $100,000 by replacing them with a younger worker that I don't pay all those benefits to. That's what's really going on. And it's a sad state of our country, but that's the real life what's going on today.
Can you fit me into a business that there is a need for in this market? Can you actually look demographically and say, okay, this segment of society is being underserved, and here's where I recommend you put all your effort and time in as far as becoming part of the franchise system?
Absolutely. One of the things that I do is once I understand all of your criteria, I then help you look at those franchises or business opportunities that I think fit your criteria. But I also will show you the demographics. I'll show you the competition. I'll show you how that business fits into the demographics, the competition, the repeat business, whether franchisor, how much business they're going to get you in your opening in the first few months from their search engine optimization and national accounts and pay per click and all the other things, because you can't decide to go into something until you see all that information. And the beauty of our world today is we can look at that competitive analysis. We can look at those demographics. We can look at the fact that in this county, there's 15.8% of the population that is this is over 65. We can look at the fact that the average age of a home is 37 years old. Yeah, I mean, we can look at so much information today that you can really understand completely and fully what you're going to go into before you ever do it.
But they were talking about this article where now someone got into becoming a locksmith. Do they have to do that job, or can they hire someone to do it for them and just be the owner of the business? And then can they add other vehicles to grow it?
Absolutely. In this case, Steve Gregario doesn't know a thing about the locksmith business, nor will he ever. Okay. He is taught to estimate, from estimating software and his training, but he's the one that's going to go out and call on the account, the elderly care facilities and all the schools and so forth. And he's taught to understand what they have now, what they're looking for, and then providing them a solution to that problem, giving a price. He hires, and the franchisor in this case helped them start with 2 locksmiths, licensed, bonded, insured locksmiths that have licenses from the state. And they are the ones that he gives them a schedule and they go out and do the work. All right. So, and he collects the money basically. So, and locksmiths are very expensive. I mean, they have they're making a lot of money because of the skill sets they have.
Right.
I mean, there's only right now in this county, there's only 19 licensed locksmiths.
Wow.
All right. So in his case, because they're already working for somebody, he got one locksmith from Nashville, another one from Knoxville, who moved here. All right. And they have all the skills necessary, not only to do regular locksmith job, but all the security things that they do, which is totally different than the average locksmith. But the franchisor helped him hire those people, do the background checks, do the drug screens, the right compensation plans. They helped him do it. So he is never doing the work, because I always say to somebody, you should be working on your business, not in it. And the other thing that people get really concerned about is, oh, I don't want to go into something that is complicated. And I always recommend that your first business be a simple business.
Right.
No employees, few moving parts, and a lot of income streams or products and services, but you can't have a lot of infrastructure, retail, equipment, and so forth. So a simple business is not scary to go into, quite frankly, as your first business.
Something that's not equipment heavy, that's not inventory heavy, that really you're just assisting someone in the service-oriented world, as opposed to making widgets. You watch Shark Tank, as do I.
Yep.
And you see all the people that have come up with this great invention. And you're just starting there. That's not the end of it. Just because you have a patent, now to market it, to get people to like it, to get them to rebuy it, to get it into a retailer. Most people have no clue what it takes to get all this done. And when they go to the Entrepreneur Source, or you, Bruce, it's already been done.
Right.
That's why, even with our radio station here, I model the principle of the sound, I guess you could say, on McDonald's. McDonald's franchise is something that's very successful. They repeat things often. Everyone knows what the M is. On and on. I can talk 2 hours on McDonald's and why they've been so successful, and why they're going away from that success, because they messed with the formula. People don't go to McDonald's for a salad.
No.
We want a greasy hamburger.
Yeah.
And then afterwards we go, oh, my stomach is killing me. But then 2 days later, you're craving the quarter pounder with cheese and their fries.
They're addictive.
They changed the model now that's a question I've been wanting to ask you, and it just came back to me. Why would a successful franchise like that change their entire model to something that makes no sense in what they are and who they have identified with?
It's very simple. Is if you look at large Fortune 500 companies, almost all of them are New York Stock Exchange companies, or NASDAQ.
Right.
All right. In the case of McDonald's, they are New York Stock Exchange publicly traded company. What do they have to do to keep their stock prices up? They have to continue to grow their quarter by quarter sales and profits. All right. So what they're doing, if they don't report better sales and better profits this quarter over the same quarter from the last quarter, or the last quarter of the similar quarter last year, their stock's going to go down. So what happens is they're trying to force new products and new services into the pipeline that take them away from their core competency, their core business model.
And some genius decided that. So, instead of expanding on breakfast like they should have done 20 years ago, because everybody likes McDonald's breakfast, it's like they already had the service.
But let's
they already had the product.
Let's examine that. When McDonald's started, they were primarily lunch only. Then they moved into
breakfast.
Then they went to dinner.
Well, they were breakfast 30 years ago.
They went to dinner. Yeah. But the major change in the food industry is they went into breakfast.
Yeah.
And then now they're breakfast all day long.
Yeah.
But see, that was a franchisor that was trying to add income streams to their franchise model.
Oh, okay.
And to grow their system. Now what you have is some genius at their headquarters who's trying to figure out, how do I add more products and services, and how do I take the salad business from the competition? Same way Burger King just added hot dogs. I'm not going to Burger King to get a hot dog. I'm sorry. Not going to happen. All right.
I love hot dogs.
Yeah, I know.
But I'm not going to the Burger
But the
King
whole
for hot
point
dogs.
is, some things worked very successfully.
Yeah.
Adding breakfast, which is now the biggest income stream in fast food, period. Or when you've added,
and that's because our
menu.
That's because our lifestyles changed.
Yeah. So
in the 60s, mom was there making breakfast at home for the kids.
Right.
But now that women are in the workplace, like 60-40 compared to men.
Yep.
And moms are the nurturers. You got to get breakfast somewhere. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but see, what they've tried to do is they've tried to add products and services to increase their sales and increase their earnings, so their stock price is going to stay up. Sometimes they fail. All right. Subway added breakfast. It has failed.
Yeah.
And I have clients that own Subways that want to do something else because they got $20,000 a month in fixed overhead to run a Subway. It's crazy. But they say that when they're not selling breakfast, they get people coming in on the way to work to buy a sub sandwich to take to lunch. That's what.
I honestly don't know how anyone makes money in the restaurant business.
I don't either.
There's so much overhead. There's so much spoilage, and you never recommend restaurants.
Never. I mean, again, let's just say it's a Subway. You got $20,000 a month on average in fixed overhead.
Yeah.
You got to sell 3,500 sandwiches a month to break even. If you sell 1,750, you're going to have to dig into your pocket for $10,000 to keep the doors open. That is unacceptable risk. So on the other side of that, and what I like to show my clients, the service business, you're going to keep 95 cents out of every dollar instead of giving up 95 cents out of every dollar for overhead. That really gets down to less risk, which is an ugly 4-letter word.
Women have become a very powerful economic source, and I'm going to say this stuff not as a sexist, but as somebody who's 58. Bruce is around my age, so anyone under 40 will think, well, they're sexist. They don't know, but we lived through this. We lived through the time where, like in my family, was a one earnings family. My dad provided for everyone. Mom was there, grandma was there. They made breakfast, lunch, dinner. We grew up with that in the 50s and 60s. Well, by the 70s, women are entering the marketplace, and let me tell you, a force to be reckoned with. Some of the women I've worked with were much better than the men. Smarter, work harder, work cheaper.
Better multitasking, better detail skills.
Better multitasking. And another thing that surprised me with this radio station is the concept is about 2.5 years old with Hot News Talk Radio. You report the world of sides. When I looked at the market, the demographic I found to be underserved were males 35 to 64. Just about every one of the markets targeting women 25, 54, 18, 49. Some of the old rock stations target males, but no real station targeting males 35, 64. That's the target demographic on this radio station. Everything we do, that's who we target because they're underserved. NASCAR, hunting, fishing, Fox, sport, all that stuff. But what I'm finding is, you ready for this? That about up to 40% of our listeners are women. So those old models are going away.
Right.
Those old models of just because you're doing hunting, fishing, sports. And by the way, women really weren't into politics in the 60s and 70s. Some were, but not a lot. And now we're seeing a sea change there, a shift where as many, if not more women care and are getting involved in politics. And I preface all that by asking you, how important is it for the 40% of the women that are listening right now to make that change, to take that step? To stop being a secretary or stop being, a stay-at-home mom, or even work in a business where they know they can do it better than the guy. Because I've seen situations where women run entire businesses. They literally run it. And all the guy does is come in there and sign some stuff. She'll have the better idea. She runs it. She does the books, doesn't get the credit for it. And that woman that's listening, I think what Bruce is about to talk about is going to be the most important talk of your life and could be a real benefit and sea change for you if you've been underappreciated for what you've done all these years.
Yeah, I mean, right now, about 30% of my clients are women. Another 30%, a husband and wife is going to do something together, like Brandy and Steve Regario. And so if you really look at it, women today are tired of doing all that work and getting paid half of what a man gets paid for. Or doing all the detail, running the business while, the owner of the business, he goes plays golf and collects his money.
Right.
We also have we also have a segment of our population where a woman's had a great career, then she has family. She stays at home with the kids, and now the kids are in junior high school, and they don't want her around anymore anyway. But she wants to go out, and a woman wants to go out and feel important. make some incremental income, save for the kids' college, save for retirement. But a lot of it's a sense of self-worth. And a lot of women have those transferable skills and strengths they've developed. But the problem is they don't want to go to work for $9 or $10 an hour. So the other issue is a woman needs a flexible lifestyle. She still has to take care of the kids and the house and shop and do all the other things. So there's a lot of opportunities today for a woman that, it's 10, 20, 25 hours a week, but you set your own schedule.
But let's say that's not a sexist statement.
Not at all.
We wish men would do that, but the reality of it is, and I was a single dad for a long time. Still am a single dad, but I'm saying right when my daughter was younger, I had to do a lot of things that women do. But there again, that sounds like a sexist statement that women's were designated to do in their roles. And I think just naturally women are nurturers.
Right.
So they'll take that role of changing diapers and giving the bottle and making sure the doctor's appointments are kept and so on and so forth. Well, the guy's like, oh, just go get a beer and go do some golfing and hang with the boy. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah.
So we're not saying this in a derogatory manner, but they were traditional women roles. And even today, the women have to take care of all that, plus in some instances be the breadwinner.
Yeah, but it's really interesting. American Express just finished a study, and in the United States, there is 9.4 million women-owned businesses that are currently operating in the United States. And here in Hamilton County, there's 13,307 women-owned businesses in Metro Chattanooga. Now, there's no way in the world that anybody would even think that there's 13,307 businesses owned by women in Hamilton County.
I wouldn't have thought that.
Yeah, it's an unbelievable number. And yet, basically, as a woman who is a director of or a president of a company or CEO or higher level is only 8% in this county. So the issue is 13,307 women have decided to run a business or own a business here in Chattanooga. And that's one of the things that the female-owned business, many of the franchise models are to use the female skills and strengths. And now simply because the Small Business Administration has earmarked $150,000 that they can up to $150,000 they can get with no pledge of collateral and no money down with the 10-year amortization, as we've talked about. It makes it easier and easier for a woman to go into business.
Aren't there other programs available to women that aren't available to men?
There's special programs available to minorities. Now, they consider a woman a minority. I'm not sure why.
Right.
And also veterans. All right.
Right.
There's special programs for veterans. And I got a call yesterday from a veteran who's disabled, Marines, still can work, but he can't get a job. He's making $35,000 a year in disability. He can't. He's 42 years old, and he wants to do something, and so there is monies available to those veterans under special programs or women under special programs. But the SBA programs are so easy to qualify for. It really doesn't even matter that there's special monies available through different veterans programs, and veterans do get a discount on their franchise fee. And again, these SBA programs are perfect because you just don't need very much money. As we've talked about before, you're talking $30,000 to $50,000 all in, and including paying yourself for the first few months. And
that doesn't mean you have to put in the 30 to 50. The 30 to 50 comes from the SBA.
Exactly, that's what I'm talking about.
You're paying it back through the corporation.
Right.
So don't let it scare you, because if you decide that you want to do this and you Google someone who's supposedly an expert in this area that's going to get you government money, it's going to cost you money. I don't care what they say they guarantee or what they're going to provide. And the problem with those services are that you still have to do the work yourself. So when you go that route, now what happens? Because there are a ton of them out there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we can get you this money. Okay, well, now you have the money. Now what are you going to do? What kind of business you going into? Because whatever you decide you're going into, there's a 95% chance that it's going to fail the first year. 95%.
In food and retail, you're right.
Not food, right. Food, and that's what mainly people do. Food and retail.
Exactly.
Brick and mortar. 95%. That money's getting
sucking sound. That's right.
Right down the toilet.
Right.
So to me, and this is one of the reasons why Bruce is on here every other week, because we want everyone. See, we teach what we preach. We practice what we preach as this radio station. This radio station is about educating the individual to empower you. I don't care about groups or organizations. I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat. I belong to no groups or organizations because we don't need them. Because the power rests within us when we get the proper information.
Right.
Do you know Dorothy? She seeked out all these people and the wizard and the Tin Man and the Cowardly Lion. And you know what the wizard said? Click your heels 3 times. Really? You mean I have the power? You had it all along. You just didn't know it.
Right.
So that's where you come in, Bruce, is you unlock their individual power through your knowledge of being an individual who has run multi-million-dollar businesses and have grown them, has had a 96% success rate, and can mentor someone for 2 or 3 months into what you and they think may work best for them. And then once that happens, because this isn't going to cost me anything,
right.
The client doesn't pay you anything. They come to you and they have an idea and you lead them into one direction. Do they get to see that model of the business actually working?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things, what really happens, Ab, is based on all the criteria that a client gives me, I show them a series of business models that I think fits their criteria. They decide which ones they want to learn more about, and then they start an extensive amount of due diligence research. This process is going to take you 3 or 4 months minimum.
Yeah, we hear that word due diligence, and we watch Shark Tank, we hear it. But the average person does. I think they hardly ever hear that word in their daily life. That's business word. What does actually due diligence mean for them?
That means that you're doing the investigation yourself to determine if indeed that business is right for you, because you have to find out a day in the life of someone who owns that franchise or business right now. But you also have to understand how fast you're going to get your clients and customers and how much money you can make short-term and long-term. So what you're going to do.
But you're helping me do this.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So what's going to happen is you're going to have 5 or 6 conversations with a franchisor. You're going to start to talk to their franchisees that are actually in the business, so you can have a day in their life. You can go visit the closest franchisee, go to Knoxville, Nashville, Atlanta, spend a day with a franchisee to make sure you're going to enjoy doing that every day. But you also talk to a series of franchisees to understand, what was their gross and net the first year, how long it took them to make money. Give me the pros and cons. You can go to their headquarters and have lunch with the CEO and hear their vision for the next 5 or 10 years. Look at the training programs, look at everything. There's to the point that when you're done, not only will you understand if it's the right business for you or not, because we're going to review your criteria versus that business, but we're also going to do a use of funds, show you how much money you need to start up along with paying yourself.
You're holding their hand along the process.
Absolutely.
The Entrepreneur Hour, the Entrepreneur Source is Bruce Krebs. Your phone number?
423-875-5621.
Google Bruce Krebs, and you'll be able to get his email address and everything. There was a kid that was on Shark Tank who, he was, I guess, 16 at the time, that got a hold of a CEO of a major company. And all the sharks were like, great going, man, because people come in and go, I need your connections, because you were talking about discussing things with the CEO. You would be amazed as to how many CEOs and business people want to talk about their business. Absolutely. And want to share that. They're not on a distant planet as a distant God overseeing what's going on. Most of them are very accessible. Mm-hmm. And they are only inaccessible because you don't try to access them. And that's where Bruce comes in, because, Bruce, we made this appointment, and I'm walking in your door, and, Bruce, thanks for seeing me, and I've been working for this company for years. I think I'm going to be getting fired, or I'm a woman that's just sick of making everybody else money, and I want to make this decision. And I know, you were talking about a guy who just opened a business. He's a locksmith and whatever, and I have a lot of ideas, but where do we go from here, Bruce? How can you help me?
Right. Hey, again, I have to understand your skills, your strengths, what you're good at, what you enjoy doing every day.
I'm a talker. I like helping people. I've worked in an office, and I keep the office orderly, and I take dictation, and I can do 105 words a minute typing, and I'm skilled in Mac and PC and Microsoft Publisher, and I have a great set of skills that I've done for years and years and years.
Well, that's all good. At the end of the day, though, I have to ascertain what you enjoy doing every day from a business standpoint.
I like helping people.
Okay, good. Now, if that be the case, look at some of the problems we have in this county. Our educational system is 50 worst in the nation.
Yeah.
There's things in the children's tutoring education business.
I love that. I have 2 kids, and I love tutoring my kids. So there.
So there's great tutoring business. There's.
Well, help me with one. What do I do? So I'm here. I like the tutoring. So what's the process?
Well, in that particular business, what you do is you go into the schools, make a presentation to the principal, guidance counselor, whatever, you will, how you can help any child that is struggling or needs extra help, because the teachers don't have time to do tutoring.
There's a franchise for that?
Absolutely. And so what you actually do is you get teachers who want to do tutoring and make incremental income after school. And once you ascertain what deficiencies a child has, what tutoring they need, if they're reading the third grade level and they're in fifth grade or whatever it is, the tutors that you have that are accredited teachers go into the home and do the tutoring there. But there's assessments that are done so that the parent, the teachers, and principal can show the progress the child's making. So in this case, you're helping the family, you're helping the children, you're helping the teachers, and you're helping also the school, because you're helping them increase their graduation rates and their GPA averages, and you're helping the teachers make incremental income. So that's a business that is a tremendous business, because we have a big problem here. And with the public schools, let alone many of the private schools and parochial schools here, have the same kind of issues.
Yeah.
Or maybe you just want to keep your child accelerated.
Where's that franchise model growing at? Where are they doing that? That model that you just discussed.
Well, I got a client in Knoxville. I got one in Nashville.
Wow.
They also
see that's something I would. This is why you need to talk to Bruce. That's something I would not have thought of.
Right.
But someone that loves to tutor their children, what a great franchise opportunity.
But tutoring your children, one, you don't know really what's wrong, what deficiencies they have.
Right.
Two, you don't have the lesson plans, and three, you can't. The lesson plans aren't for accelerated tutoring, and there's no way you can monitor and measure the progress. But the biggest problem, if you send your child to like Sylvan or Kuhlman or Honors or someplace like that, the tutoring is done by college students. There's no testing. And the biggest problem is they're in a cube with 25 other kids around them, and they don't want to be there. Whereas this program is done in the privacy of somebody's home.
And this is actually a business I can own.
Absolutely.
Now, can I still keep my full-time job and own this?
As long as you have a flexible schedule, yes. This is the kind of business that is 15, 20 hours a week for that stay-at-home mom who wants to do something and to earn incremental income. This is really that kind of business.
And what kind of numbers can you do on average for working 15, 20 hours a week?
Well, this business, I mean, the total cost to get into is $35,000. And, you're looking at generally the first year income for most of their franchisees is between 60 and 70,000. And by second and third year, you can get over six figures.
Wow. That's for a $35,000 investment.
Right, exactly.
On a loan you're getting from the SBA.
There's no overhead, and you have no employees because the teachers that are doing the tutoring are 1099.
See, this is why Bruce is so important. You're not going to hear this anywhere else. I went to the School of Hard Knocks, Bruce, learning how to do corporations,
right,
and trusts and things of that. I wasn't educated in that. They don't even teach you that in college unless you take a course. So you and I have gone to the School of Hard Knocks to learn this. How many clients have I dealt with where they're writing checks out of their own personal account, or they're paying for their own car, even though they use it for business, so on and so forth? They don't have the knowledge to know, set up a corporation, do a subchapter S where you can control everything, put that in your corporate name, lease it in your corporate name. Tax evasion is illegal. Tax avoidance is legal.
Correct.
And under Title 26, which is the tax code, just about everything you do to make profit and gain is deductible.
Right. Almost
everything.
A vast majority of your personal expenses are now deductible as a business expense.
So you come in to me, if I were coming to you for this kind of advice, that's worth a minimum of $250 an hour. Minimum. I'd say $500 an hour. If I'm because of your life experience and your 96% success rate in your franchise business, I would say if you're going to take me under your wings, who's never been in business, even people that have been in business, and you're going to mentor me to get into a franchise that's not going to cost me anything, your time is worth money. And I'm not saying you're giving that away, but you're deferring it because you don't get paid for months until that individual decides to sign the papers, go into business, and then you constantly monitor them to ensure their success. So your gratification is held off for a long time.
Well, yeah, I mean, to a point, I'm like a life coach, but I get paid like a headhunter. So you never pay for my services, the corporation does. And in this case, the franchisor compensates me, but you never pay that in any way for any time. But, one interesting question before we have to close for today. Many people say, I don't believe the economy is as good as it is. I think the jobs market's worse than it is. There's a lot of things that are out there. And it's really interesting that another study just came out, and that in the history of our country, there's never been a better time to start a business. That's what this American Express study that was done last month that just came out. And we are growing at the fastest rate of business formation, people going to business for themselves in the history of our country. And it's because our basically technology is helping people with going into business and not having to hire a bunch of people, the secretaries and clerks and different things. And with technology, they can get lead generation. The marketing piece of their program is easier with the right vehicle. And more so than that, the top issue is funding. And now with the SBA program that we've talked about, where you can get up to $150,000 on your signature with no pledge or collateral or no money down,
right.
With a 10-year amortization, people can go into business for themselves and pay themselves for the startup. But, one of the fears is I don't want to go into business for myself because I'm worried about my healthcare costs. Most people don't realize as a business owner, your health insurance is much cheaper because you go into a bucket with millions of other small business owners, and your rates are totally different than if you go to Blue Cross Blue Shield directly. But secondly, if it's $600 a month, your business pays for that, and it's 100% deductible.
Right.
So now you may be working at a major corporation. You may be paying $400 or $500 a month to get as your portion of what you have to pay for crummy insurance with high copays, high deductibles, whatever. Now you can get much better insurance than the Affordable Care Obamacare plan, and take less money out of your pocket for your deductibles and copays and so forth. I mean, I look at some of these plans that people are getting under Obamacare where, you have $5,000 or $10,000 deductibles before you can even start.
Oh, the insurance
anything.
Industry loves the Obamacare.
Exactly.
They love the
on the other hand, you look at United Healthcare. United Healthcare lost half a $500 billion.
Yeah.
Ugly number. Someone's going to have to do something about it sometime, because it isn't all that it is cracked up to be. But I'll tell you, I have a great idea. And we're just about done with the show.
We have time.
But I have a great idea to make money.
Yeah.
What are we seeing in this political campaign on both sides? They're throwing mud.
Mm-hmm.
They're throwing truckloads of mud.
Sure.
I think that if we get into a business, Ab, where we are selling mud to the politicians, we will make a fortune.
Let me tell you, for talk radio, this is going to be so much fun. Trump against Hillary. And whoever becomes the next president, whoever's in talk radio is going to be, it's going to be more fun than it was when Clinton was in office. Because Clinton's years were, oh man, Obama's boring. He's just a regular old Marxist, and Bush is Bush. What are you going to do with a Bush?
Right.
Dogs pee on him, and we just, we walk by them. But these two characters are going to be fun. Yeah, the Entrepreneur Source is a franchise.
Correct.
So you're part of a franchise.
I bought this franchise 14 years ago.
I love that concept. How was that concept developed?
Basically, it was developed 31 years ago, where the owner of the Entrepreneur Source had technically been a broker and brokering businesses, and realized that business coaching was a far better way to go than business brokering. And so because as a business broker, you're going to come in and talk to a business broker, and he's going to show you what he has. It's like showing you the cars that are on a used car lot. And you have to take the blue one that has the dent in it that is got 100,000 miles and so forth. You got to buy that one because that's the only one that's on the lot.
Right.
Whereas instead of looking at a business and paying a 3 times multiple or 4 times multiple, then how can you go into a business that's right for you, so you don't have to buy the one with 100,000 miles on it? And what is the right business for you? So the whole coaching aspect really started to come into fruition 15, 20 years ago, where people needed business coaches. Or you look at the world of coaching, I don't care if it's football, pro sports. Let's face it, every pro sports is a franchise. They're a franchise. Yeah. Or Coca-Cola, or whatever it happens to be. They're franchises. But people realized they needed a coach to help them identify their blind spots, to help them learn what they don't know themselves, or give them perspective, basically. And I think the favorite thing is, a good coach will show you your blind spots.
And this franchise fits you perfectly.
Yeah.
Because even if you didn't have it, you'd be talking about business.
Exactly.
That's what you and I do. We would just, even if you didn't have it, you'd be talking about it.
Exactly.
So it absolutely fits you perfectly.
Absolutely.
The Entrepreneur Hour, this is every other Wednesday. The hour's gone already.
Oh, yeah.
Can you imagine that?
It went quick.
Poof. The Entrepreneur Source, Bruce Krebs. If you'd like to have a fantastic mentor and are thinking about making that move that's going to cost you nothing with your signature, up to $150,000. That's a pretty good deal. Right. Your phone number, Bruce?
My number is 423-875-5621.
Once again?
423-875-5621 for anybody that wants a free assessment.
And, of course, if you're driving down the road and didn't get that, when you get home or at your place of business, just Google Bruce Krebs or the Entrepreneur Source or Hot News Talk Radio. You can always call us here, and we'll give you the information at hotnewstalkradio.com. Hot News Talk Radio on Twitter, Hot News Talk Radio live on Facebook. If you look at Hot News Talk Radio, we're everywhere. Bruce Krebs, the Entrepreneur Source. This is the Entrepreneur Hour. Make the right decision. Make the right move. Take control of your life. And that's what it's about, Bruce. Taking control of your life.
Absolutely.
Thanks again, Bruce.
Thank you, Sab. Have a good week.
Nooganomics.com is a slap of fresh air, a 2x4 across the brain every morning. Read Nooganomics.com to find out what's happening in Chattanooga. Local-centric, Nooga-centric. Read it. The man who matters does. You should too. Nooganomics.com.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you